The Iorì wase podcast channel is brought to you by First Nations Fiber.
Welcome to the Iorì wase Front Page podcast. In today's episode, we talk to Kerry Goodleaf, Paul Rice, and Greg Horn about a new nonprofit organization called Club 24.
Have you ever been gaming or working online classes and your internet service constantly gets interrupted? First Nations Fiber is about to ensure that just won't happen again. Get ready for high speed at a new level. Click on fnfiber.com and sign up today. First Nations Fiber, empowering people through connectivity.
Hey everyone, my name is Jordan Standup. I am the assistant editor here at Iorì wase, and today I have a packed studio of special guests. Today I'm joined by Kerry Goodleaf, Paul Rice, and Greg Horn of Club 24. So welcome to the studio, gentlemen.
Hello.
Good morning.
Thank you. Morning. So Club 24 has been in the headlines a little bit as of late, but I'd like to take it back to the start, if we could talk about how the club actually got together and the significance behind the number 24.
Year and a half ago or so, Kerry called me up and said, "Hey, I have this idea about creating a nonprofit organization, and I'd like for you to be a part of it." And I said, "All right, let's talk." And then he had suggested that, maybe getting Paul involved. So I had a meeting with Paul and got the whole idea rolling about everything behind it. And the idea was to create a nonprofit organization for the community that would eventually become a registered charity, and that would give back to community members who are excelling both in school and in sports, and as a way to offer mentorships to them and scholarships and all these different things. So it was really like a very wide idea. And then we start sitting down and looking at, okay, how can we do different things? And, it kind of snowballed from there.
For sure. And it's kind of exactly the way Greg went about it. And the way I approached Paul is we were again back to members at Kanawaki, and it was one of our first or second games playing against each other. And I ran it by Paul, and at that time he was, in a transition at work, and he had mentioned that there may become an opportunity where he maybe would have a lot more time available for the project. So once he had mentioned that, he went off and made a pretty good par putt on 9, and kind of got my confidence built in with him. And because par at number 9 at Kanawaki is not no easy task. So before, I know Greg for 10 years, outside 10 years, and Paul not so long before the first 2-3 games that we had together. So again, this is a very new working relationship that is obviously taken off, and supporting yourself with some solid people is half the battle. And fortunately, I have really good people in my corner, and I can't ask for a better recipe for it.
So, Kerry, was this something that you kind of had simmering in the back of your head for quite a while before you decided to maybe reach out to Greg and Paul about the idea?
I mean, we created an indoor lacrosse facility, and it was kind of like a COVID project, and couldn't do much during COVID. So I had a warehouse that was vacant or not active at that point. So I went on a marketplace and kind of got myself into a bit of an expensive project. But I mean, it has to start somewhere. And again, COVID was a lot of time to sit back and kind of see where the future goes, right? This is one of many projects that are coming probably out of COVID, and trying to see it in hindsight where this could be in 5-10 years, or even just 1 year. I would never expect it to be at this point. It's really an accomplishment, and again, having the support cast is a really big hurdle to acquire. And for me, it's a positive project. So a lot of people are really interested in being involved, and fortunately, we've got the support cast that goes along with being something that I want at the biggest level.
So, what are some of the projects that have already been undertaken or started by Club 24 at this point?
As Kerry mentioned, there's the indoor lacrosse facility. It's by no means anything fancy. It's very utilitarian, and there's maybe a quarter of a rink in there with some nets. And, there's a lot of things that are happening in there. I think we had KSS wrestling team in there. Norda McCumber had his sword fighting group doing some training in there at one point. So there's all these different things that are there. We had tried to host a goalie lacrosse camp last year, but we just didn't have. It was almost a last minute thing. We didn't really get the chance to get it really off the ground. And then a few different things like that. We've helped a couple different athletes and teams go different places across Canada, and we've also just recently hosted a golf camp in association with First Tee Quebec.
Yep. First Tee in Golf Canada.
And that was held at various golf courses in the community. That was something that Paul and Kerry had been working on for a couple months, I think.
Yeah. We'd met Jeremy from Golf Canada, I want to say sometime July, around then. And similar to how Club 24 started, it was just, well, we're looking to do the First Tee. They're having some difficulties in Quebec. I know that the First Tee's priorities and what they're trying to accomplish in terms of creating game changers and helping young people, not just in sport, but in life, giving them the building blocks and the basics, aligned very well with what Club 24 wanted to do. And yeah, we just started working together. One thing led to another. And then, yeah, we just finished the camp. We had 3 camps. Supposed to have 4 of them, but one of them was rained out. We went to Mystic Pines, Kanawaki Golf Club, and at the end they were able to do, get out there and play some actual holes at Patton's Glen. And some of these kids had never picked up a golf club before. Some of them had, and we taught them about the game. We had some volunteers locally, which also aligns very well with Club 24. We had some older golfers, in their young 20s, teaching the 10 to 12-year-olds. And that's really what drew me to working together on Club 24, was that sort of vision and mission aligns very well with what I personally believe in, paying it forward and helping our young kids here in the community. And then the way that we ended up doing the First Tee program was that both programs had similar visions. They were looking for a partner to coordinate and execute it, carry out the actual program. And somehow, I guess we pulled it off, sort of just, one of these random things. And that's usually where the best things happen, right? Is when you get together and, you just talk about it. And there was a lot of efforts from Kerry and myself and all the other volunteers, Frankie Jr., Brett Thunder, Cole Beaton, and especially Noah Norton. Those are the 5 volunteer coaches. And then we had Paxton helping us coordinate as well. And at the end, it was kind of fun. We had the kids were coming in on the last hole at Patton's Glen. And all the parents were there standing, watching them kind of come in. And, for some of them, that's the first time that their kid has ever played, on an actual golf course and come in and finish. So that was a cool thing to see. And I think that moment really epitomizes what we're trying to accomplish with Club 24 and the First Tee camp. And I think as individuals as well, right? That's why we're here. So.
Yeah, I think we're all very community minded, and we want to help bring people in our community to the next level, right? And get noticed, whether it be in academics, whether it be in sports or whatever, and help create positive opportunities for community members and in order to help affect positive change in the community and get people to look back and say, our community helped me get here, and Club 24 did this and did that for me, and in the future get them to have that same mentality about giving back to the community and helping other people get to where they need to be.
And specific to the golf camp, which was very successful, I was just wondering what kind of comments you guys might have heard from the parents and participants themselves.
Yeah, we had a lot of really positive feedback. Most of it was, can you do more of it? It was, really great. And, what is kind of the future? What's going to happen in the future? So this year, it was a bit of a test case. None of us had really ever done this before. I was given the coordinator training by the First Tee. It's like a couple of days of professional kind of training. And we were lucky we had Brett and Frankie Jr. Those are real golfers, right? So it worked out very well. And we wanted to make sure we could do it and kind of test it out. And we want to scale it and do more in the spring next year. So that was one of the feedback was, well, can we do more age groups? There's a lot of demand. So we're going to have to kind of sort that out. The courses and the stuff that we did was really, really interesting to the participants and to the parents. It was a mix of your classic, go out on the range and hit some balls. And at some point we were playing it's called Battleship, and you set up 2 teams and you try to chip the ball into specific points on the green, which makes it fun for the kids, right? So it was engaging, that kind of thing. We are going to try to get information out sooner. That was another thing. Again, trying to do a test case. We didn't want to over publicize it and get 100 people that were interested, knowing that this was our first time, and we just wanted to try to get one group through. And that's the same reason why we had 4 different days, right? If it rained or stuff like that. So a lot of the feedback was more like how we could improve upon it, but that it was well received. Found that the kids learned a lot. We had some kids that weren't able to hit the ball at first, and then they were hitting driver and irons afterwards. They were learning things about distance control. They were learning how to hold the club. So that's not really feedback that we received, but anybody who watched from start to the end, you could see the improvement in the kids themselves. And then another interesting point of feedback was in the program, you kind of teach them a few things. We were learning a lot about feedback and collaboration. If you're not sure or ask a question and try to learn from that and learn from the other people around you. Because golf is a lot about feedback. You hit the shot, it's a good shot, it's a bad shot. How can you make it better? What do? You learn from that. And the kids were doing that, right? And sometimes it's tough. Like kids won't ask, if they're not, some are naturally curious. They don't stop asking questions. But those are not the ones that we're looking to help, right? You want to help the ones that maybe are not, they're not so outgoing. They're not going to ask a question, because that's kind of what we want to improve upon, right? We want to nurture the natural curiosity of kids and have them trying new things. And that was kind of one point. And kids you could see it. They came the first day, they were very quiet. By the time the last day came around, they were helping each other. And, oh, this is how you should hold the club and stuff like that. And the other one was, learning through our challenges. So a lot of the kids were very nervous and apprehensive at the beginning. Understandably so. Never swung a club, never did anything like that. But by the end, they were, the things that we showed them, they were learning in real time. So it's not necessarily, they didn't come up and tell us like, oh, wow, I learned so much. You know what I mean? But you can see it, right? And sometimes that's like the best feedback that you can get, is you don't need to be told, because it's very clear. And just by that 3 camps that we held, I think that's enough momentum for us to scale it and to offer something in the spring for sure. What that looks like, I'm not sure. But it's definitely something that's in demand. And the key thing was, we just did 10 kids this year. If we just did one camp like that for the next 10 years, that would be 100 new golfers in the community. And that's if we just did one camp a year. And that's really what a lot of people were saying was, well, if you do it like that, there'll be more people that pick up golf. And we're kind of at a point where there's less people playing golf. And that's one thing we heard a lot about, was this is really good to get kids back into golf, because it's good for them personally, it's good for them athletically, it's good for them mentally, etc. So I think that was a lot of the feedback we got, specifically on the courses.
We were actually at the camps and talking with you just last week. Kerry, you were talking about how these camps aren't going to be limited to just 1 or 2 sports, because you made a very good point by saying Ganawage doesn't just have lacrosse and hockey players. So it's very important to branch out into other sports that our future generations are interested in.
No, it's definitely something we gotta I guess present to the younger generation. There's many options, right? I mean, for instance, Onage just had their 50th anniversary, and I mean, growing up, I was a young Onage paddler, and kind of start picking up a lacrosse stick, and then hockey, and then life gets busy, but trying to dedicate something to a specific sport, and trying to get again mentors to guide you through those sports, and finding those people who kind of walk the walk in each avenue, to try to get them on board with us, because we're a bit of the coordinators, and we kind of see the vision, but we got to, again, support staff, right? And getting people that have university experience and who had the struggles, and go one-on-one and have maybe sessions to go to high school and talk to these children before, to get a better idea on where their future could end up. Because when you're in grade 8, grade 9, grade 10, you kind of don't know what you want. But if you know somebody that you could relate to, maybe a friend of a friend, a relative, or whatever, but kind of getting those people back into the classrooms to go one-on-one, talk to the whole group, whole grades, because sometimes that just that little motivation or having that experience sharing really goes a long ways.
And it's great to have all these ideas for these projects, but everybody can understand that you do need money to accomplish these things. And there are some fundraising efforts that are happening. So, Greg, are you able to tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, for sure. Of course, all these things, they cost money. It gets expensive, if we want to host camps, and, there's rental fees, and, if we're giving scholarships or bursaries or helping in training and stuff like that, there's costs associated with all of this. So one of the things that we're looking at is we're in the middle of a fundraising drive through a high stakes raffle. It's licensed by the Ganawage Game Commission. We're selling 1,000 tickets at $100 a pop, and we're giving out $50,000 in prizes if it's a complete sellout. If it's not a complete sellout, then it's basically 50-50. Club 24 gets 50%. The winner of first place gets 25%. If it's a sellout, that's $25,000. 15%, or if it's a sellout, $15,000, and 10%. And if it's a complete sellout, that's $10,000. So it's not an unsubstantial amount of money that could be won. The draw is scheduled for mid-November. And, it's just one of those things that we want to help raise money and awareness for Club 24. And then in the future, the funds that we generate through this high stakes raffle will help local athletes in other ways. And, it's something that's like that we're looking at is as a launch pad to greater things. As a part of the whole process that we're creating the Club 24, we're a registered nonprofit organization. We're going through the process to become an official charity that we can target larger groups of like larger companies outside of the community and be able to issue tax receipts and stuff like that. So those types of donations could come in really handy, and perhaps in the future we won't need to do high stakes raffles in order to raise the funds that we need to operate.
And I understand that the golf camp literally just ended, and I'm sure you guys are just still catching your breath from that a little bit, as in addition to all of the fundraising efforts. But is there another project on the radar that could maybe be teased at this point?
We meet every 2 weeks, and we're trying to set up a calendar of different types of camps that we're going to have throughout the next year. Of course, golf is one of those that we have planned for next spring. But, we're also looking at, okay, well, there's lacrosse season that just ended, and maybe looking at off-season camps or things like that to help get the kids keep their skills up throughout the winter. And because that's one of the biggest challenges, right? With a sport like lacrosse, we have a lot of talented hockey players here, and, maybe there's some things like that we can also look into. And I think we have a lot of big plans, and we got to, scale them down and to something that's realistic. And we'll be putting out whenever we have something new to announce, we'll definitely be putting it out there.
And Kerry, I was hoping maybe you could shine a little bit more light on the name and the reason for the Club 24, the significance behind the name and the number.
Yeah, I mean, Club 24 is obviously it was again during COVID, and coming up with naming my facility over at the lacrosse club, and Coach Cree and I were spending a lot of time there throughout the pandemic, and Coach is the junior Hunters head coach, and is also the president of the Minor Lacrosse Association. So, his roots to the community are really with the community now, and he's been around the game for a long time, and bouncing ideas off of him. We're talking to one of the top people around the game, so sharing some good ideas with him, and rolling off, and is kind of give tribute back to my brother at some point, and he using his name and using his number. It was 24 was kind of something that was bouncing around like of his identity. So Club 24 seemed really natural to kind of have the lacrosse facility named that, because around Ganawagi I have different locations where I'll go. Let's go to Club 24, right? It had an identity. So with Club 24 kind of started like, well, what can we really do with this? I mean, we're gonna rent it out, and then when people start seeing some different posts on the internet, they also want to come and rent it. They want to come live it and be a part of it. So it just kind of like we're standing there like, well, hey, what's going on? We're standing there scratching our heads, thinking to ourselves like, what can we really do with this, and how far can we really take it? If we had personal interest with it, then I mean, there's got to be somewhere we could bring this and get it to the biggest levels possible. And then that's when hey, how do we go about starting this? Like, how would we register it? How would we find out if we could rent it? Or we had a lot of questions, and kind of led up to where we are today. And I kind of letting my brother's legacy live on, and unfortunately he's no longer with us. And a lot of people who didn't have the opportunity to know him, get to know him, or at least getting to understand what kind of athlete and kind of passion he had for just what every sport he played.
Now, if community members would like to be involved with Club 24, would like to get more information, where should they go?
We have a Facebook page, it's Club 24 Athletics Foundation. And we also have a website, and that is club24sports.com.
And soon enough, we'll have an online store as well. We'll have some more, some hats and shirts, some of the things we had from First Tee available, and some other items like that. You can definitely get involved. Proceeds from the purchase will go towards Club 24 Sports. Club 24 Athletics Foundation is the official name of the not-for-profit, but the website is club24sports.com. So yeah, that's the best way to reach out. And of course, the three of us are available as well.
Oh, we shared a lot of exciting information here today. I was just wondering if any of you gentlemen had anything else you might like to add about Club 24?
It's just important to, I think, understand where we're all coming from. We're here to try to help give back to the community and help get the community involved in various sports. And it's not, I think we had an idea of, we're going to focus on lacrosse, hockey, and golf, but, there's all kinds of other sports, and there's all kinds of other need. And those needs aren't necessarily being filled, by other organizations and funding sources. We have all these kids that are going to school in the US playing, on scholarships or not on scholarships in lacrosse and other various sports. And they need help and guidance. And I think we want to try to help fill that void and get our athletes to the next level and, get them the recognition that they deserve.
Oh, it sounds like the future is absolutely bright for Club 24. And I know you guys all have very busy schedules. So I'd like to thank each of you for coming into the studio today to chat with me.
Thanks a lot, Jordan, for having us.
Yeah, I'll go.
Thanks for listening to the Iorì Wase Front Page podcast. Be sure to check out our other podcasts like Iorì Wase Profiles, Meatheads, and The Beating Table on Google and Spotify or wherever you get your podcasts.
The views and opinions of the guests expressed in this podcast do not reflect those of Iorì Wase and its employees.